So I guess one thing I should ask you guys is, are you mostly done with exams? Obviously our exam is old history. I guess it was what, like a week and a half ago. ISA still has exams. Are other folks finished with exams? Couple more? Okay, so the exams just don't end for you guys. Well, that's horrible. And I apologize for adding to the madness. I was thinking by now you'd probably be done. So here's another little activity. It's not too bad. It's just like the other forum posts we've done. It's I guess we can just hit the link and see. It's just a short little paragraph, one paragraph minimum. This one probably would be better with two, but obviously it's up to you. How do you want to organize it? So just a short little reading response. It's actually, why don't we look at the syllabus? It's actually based on a podcast. So here we are, week 9. And, I know we just started with Buddhism, but we're kind of already halfway through by the end of this week, right? So we're going to continue with kind of Buddhist teachings and that sort of thing. And then next week we'll talk about mindfulness meditation. Have you guys heard of mindfulness before? Mindfulness. It's so much easier when I can see you nodding, because if you're nodding in front of your camera right now, I can't see it. Actually, none of you have your cameras on anyway, so it doesn't matter. So I'm going to assume that maybe you've heard this word before, but even if you haven't, you will learn about it. So we'll basically, Easter is coming, we'll get a little break. I've heard it, not exactly sure what it means. Yeah, okay, good. So you've heard of it before. We'll talk about it, and then we'll have an exam. So it'll be really, not a ton of material. I guess because of that, it will probably be easier than the last exam in the sense that there'll just be less material to cover. That being said, keep reading, keep preparing. This material, the Kyon stuff, is it's not long, it's not particularly complicated, but there's just a lot of material, right? And I gave a little recorded lecture on it last week, and we started with the life of the Buddha. So we'll continue with that today. Then we'll get into some more modern stuff. So we'll talk about World War II America. We've got this figure. So the Halverson Taylor is another sacred and profane podcast, just like the one we did for American Idols. And it's about this guy, Nyogen Senzaki. He comes to America and tries to sort of spread Buddhism here. He's like a Buddhist missionary. And it's about his life and what happens to him. Maybe if you know about what it's like to be a Japanese person in America during World War II, you might be able to expect what is coming. If you don't, then you can get ready to learn. So any questions about this? You probably have not listened to the podcast yet, but as you can see, there is poetry. So I want you to pick a poem. There are several poems. Basically, and it's pretty clear from the podcast. I get somebody else to read the line, and they recite the poem. And so I want you to explain the poem just within his life, like why is he writing this poem, and then interpret it using something from Buddhism. So we've been learning about Buddhism. So you can go nuts. You can talk about the life story of the Buddha, anything we've done so far. And we're going to continue talking more about Buddhist stuff today. So any questions about all of that? Okay, well, again, Thursday before midnight. So you can start thinking about it now. Obviously, listen to the podcast first, but after today's class, you can listen to it tonight, tomorrow, the next day, anytime, and then start thinking which poem you want to write about. Okay, I'll put it in the chat just in case y'all aren't paying attention. You can hit that link for yourself to find it. All right, so last time, which feels like a long time ago, we were talking about Keanu Reeves and his path to enlightenment. Remember, he saw the 4 sights. You guys remember the 4 sights? I already list them off for you here. I would make you recite them if you were in person, but I have much less power. That's one thing I realized is like when you're actually here, you're sort of trapped with me, and I can yell at you if you aren't paying attention. Um, yeah, Mario's got it. So these are suffering. That's the bottom line, and it's a very specific kind of suffering. Remember, we talked about that last time. Old age, sickness, and death. It really comes for us all. So there are other kinds of suffering where it's like, my girlfriend or boyfriend broke up with me, or I didn't get the job or the school into the school that I wanted to, or I didn't get the internship I wanted, or I did badly on my exam or something like that. I mean, those are all sufferings too, but these are different, right? How are these different from those sufferings that I was just listing off? Yeah, and Isa asked a good question too. How does the holy person come into it? So it's not quite as simple as it seems at first glance. So I'll write it out. Old age, sickness, and death versus something like bad grade on an exam. How are those different?
They're like two different types of suffering. Like everyone's gonna experience death. Everyone's gonna experience maybe like a bad grade, or maybe if you're not in school, you won't. Um, yeah, one's permanent. You're gonna get over a bad grade. Like you don't grieve in the same way that you grieve a bad grade.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just one's way more intense.
One's
Everyone
more
experiences
intense.
it. You know.
Yeah. Very good. Thank you, Lauren. And I'd be careful with language of permanent because, for example, is sickness permanent? There's a little like echo. I feel like it happens in this room. I don't know why. Is sickness permanent? Sickness is temporary. So permanent, I would stay away from that language. Actually, there's an important Buddhist idea that we'll talk about in a moment. Isis is saying physical material. Okay. Yeah, you could say physical. They definitely are related to our bodies, right? Our bodies grow old and grow sick and they eventually die. That's absolutely true. Okay, so I think we pretty much got it with the discussion here and what Lauren was saying. Let's come back to Ice's initial question. What's the deal with the holy person? Can I copy this? Yeah. Why is the holy person there? I didn't include the picture, but remember it was like a monk-looking guy who was looking pretty chill. Let's just look it up, shall we? Buddhism. 4 sites. You guys ever do this kind of thing? So it's a very famous scene. Let's look at this one. This one's kind of nice. Old age, sickness, death, right? This is the Buddha seeing it for his first time, just like Keanu Reeves in the movie. Then he sees this holy person who's just kind of hanging out there. Maybe someone who lives in between these sites. Well, maybe I'll put it this way. So Keanu Reeves, right? No, I shouldn't call him that all the time. The Prince Siddhartha witnessed these inevitable sufferings, and he asked his charioteer, he's like, but wait a minute, what's wrong with them? They're sick and they're old and they're dying. Does that happen to everybody? And then the charioteer's like, yeah, that happens to everybody. And he's like, wait, you're telling me I'm gonna get old one day and I'm gonna get sick and I'm gonna die? And there's like not an if, it's just a when. It is gonna happen. I am gonna die one day. Are you serious, charioteer? Are you kidding me right now? Because again, he had never seen this before, right? He was a prince. Um, and so he's freaking out. And we talked about this in class last time. To come to this realization is actually a very profound moment, and it is worth freaking out about, right? He's basically asking the question, how can anybody lead a simple life? How can anybody continue living the way that they live knowing that they're going to die one day, right? He's very deeply disturbed by this thought, right? But then he sees this guy, this sort of monk looking guy, very calm, very serene. And of course, the way it's depicted here is a little abstract, but there's a sense that he knows, this guy here, the holy person, knows that he's going to die one day, knows that he's going to get sick, he's going to get old, and he doesn't seem too concerned, does he? He seems pretty chill with it. He has accepted it, so he no longer suffers. Yeah, and so that's what the Buddha wanted to know. That's what I should call him Prince Siddhartha. That's what he wanted to know is how. How do you learn to accept these things? Have you guys figured this out? Have you accepted that you will die one day? It's a disturbing question. And so I apologize if I'm freaking any of you out. But again, that's kind of the whole point of the story, right? Is to get you to freak out about these things. Mario, what's the secret? What is the secret? Who wants to share the secret with us? Not safe for work. Okay, very well. I've thought I've thought about it more recently. Okay. Oh no, the light is out, so I'm not moving around as much as I should. Whatever, we don't need the light. Yeah, well, it's you don't have to go into any detail. I'm sort of teasing you guys, but if it is a scary thing, absolutely. And why is this pandemic so scary? And I imagine this is perhaps what Harrison's thinking about. It reminds us, right? And again, I'm sure everybody in this classroom has been affected by COVID in direct ways, or at the very least indirect ways. People are dying all around us. People are getting sick all around us. We put them in charts and numbers like, oh, the numbers are going down. It's still pretty good. But the numbers going down doesn't mean people are safe. It means people are still dying. It's just a slightly lower number of people. But you could be one of those people on that chart, or someone you love. It doesn't make a difference how many other people died. You're still dying, right? It's still a frightening, horrible situation. And so, again, we as a society, and not just us, every society takes these three things and sort of pushes them to the side, right? So we don't want to think about this. This is horrible. Yeah, it is. It's totally scary. Life is very short, and it does suck. It does suck. It sucks. Well, it's not to say life sucks, but the fact that it is so short sucks. It totally sucks. But I hate to say it, it's a fact. It's a fact, right? And so this is the fact that Siddhartha is coming to terms with. And then you can see he's clutching his chest. He's like, what is this knowledge, right? He is blown away by it. So when we read this story, that's kind of the point, right? That's the point I want you to take away, is he's deeply affected by this knowledge, but he also sees that there is a way to come to terms with this knowledge, right? And I would also offer that. I don't want to leave you guys hanging with this scary sense that you're going to die one day, but there is a way to come to terms with it, and there's a power that comes along with it too. Why is there a woman there? Which woman? Where are you looking? Are you talking about these guys? Are you talking about this person? This is the charioteer. This is Chana. Remember, Keanu Reeves talked to his friend. He's like, Chana, what's wrong with those men? So this is his buddy. They just have long hair. He has long hair too. Actually, part of the next scene is the Buddha, because he was a prince. He had this long, luscious hair. He cut his hair to show that he was leaving home, leaving his role as a prince. So let's go back to the slides. Yeah. So when he was a young person, maybe I can even just add this. When he was a young man, how was his life as a young man? He was a prince, right? Did he have a good time? You think princes had a good time?
He's very sheltered and only experiences like luxury.
Yeah, sheltered and luxurious. That's great. And his father, remember, there was a prophecy, and his father didn't want to let him leave home. And this is what his father was afraid of. His father was afraid that if he learned about, frankly, death, all the other ones too, but death, then he would not want to become a king, because he'd be distracted by this knowledge that he will die one day. And it really does transform your life. It transforms your priorities, your values. It makes you rethink, like, what's the point? If I'm going to do this internship for 10 years just so I can maybe get a job at the other side, but I hate my life every moment of those 10 years, do I really want to be doing that? Especially if I might die before it's already over anyway, right? It makes you rethink your priorities for sure. And so that's what Siddhartha's father was afraid of. And of course, it happens anyway, and he leaves home. So that's where we left off last time, right? Any questions about all that so far? Is that pretty good? He then tries this very extreme lifestyle. I don't think we saw this picture yet, but you can tell the Buddha doesn't look great here, right? This is him after he leaves home, and we're going through this very quickly, but you can tell he's not eating very much. You can see his ribs sticking out, his veins. It's actually a very disgusting and disturbing statue when you think about it. Why would he ever do this? Why would he practice asceticism? Have you guys heard this word before? Extreme discipline, avoidance of indulgence. Why would anybody ever do this? And what does this have to do with those three of these four sites? This might not be obvious. I think it is a shared practice. It's not limited to Buddhism. Separate yourself from something. Good. What is he separating himself from, Harrison? You avoid cravings. You stop suffering. Sounds like Mario has figured some of this stuff out. I'm fogging up my glasses from laughing. How do you avoid cravings? And what does that have to? What do cravings have to do with suffering? Asceticism, lol, yeah. Well, we can think about this word discipline, right? I feel like I've asked you guys this question before, but would you say that you are disciplined? Mario tries to be disciplined? Because that's really what this is learning to be extremely disciplined. Would you guys say that you're disciplined? Others? Maybe a better question is, what areas of your life require discipline? Does this class require discipline? Harrison wants to be more disciplined. School definitely requires discipline, right? You gotta do the work instead of having fun. To get money requires discipline. Yeah, there's a sense you have to work in order to get money. Sports require discipline. How do sports require discipline, Lucas? Yeah, Harrison knows that too. So I bet the athletes in this class, I think there are a lot of athletes in this class. Tell us about the discipline required to be an athlete. Can you give us some details?
I would say that we have to be disciplined in many aspects. For example, that we eat healthy, that we sleep a lot, that we work, that we are on time always, and that we do our school, take it serious, because we have not a lot of time to like do other stuff. So we have to be like, get on track with everything and be on time. Yeah.
Stay on track. Yeah. So, I mean, thank you, Lucas. And so everything you just spelled out, it's like every aspect of your life, right, has to be disciplined. Everything, even sleeping, you got to go to sleep at a good time so you can wake up at a good time, make sure you get enough sleep because, your body's got to be on point, right, in order to stay fit, stay ready, hard training, sacrifice free time, relaxation. Yeah, I was, let's say I was an amateur athlete. I played ultimate frisbee for the club team when I was in college, and that was enough for me, man. That was a lot of work. We would go to practice 3 times a week. We had tournaments, especially this time of year. We'd play tournaments almost every weekend. I'd come home, I'd be just wiped. I'd be so tired, and then I'd have to go to class the next day. Very little time to do your homework on top of all the training and other stuff I was doing. And I wasn't even really, like D1 or anything like that, right? So to really be like on the team, involved in varsity sports, I can only imagine the amount of discipline required. And this is not to say that the non-athletes in the class are not disciplined. I would argue, and this is my way of expressing, I don't know, maybe a method for going easy on yourself. Our society requires incredible amount of discipline of all of us, right? So I forget even who said it, but somebody said, yeah, Harrison said he wants to be more disciplined. We all want to be more disciplined, right? Because just like I think Isa was saying at the top, in order to succeed in school, right? Success is coming back. In order to succeed in school, to get money, all that sort of stuff. There's a sense that discipline will bring us what we want, right? And we have to be very disciplined to just meet the bare expectations of my class, for example. You have to be disciplined to do the reading and do the assignments and do the exams and all that sort of stuff. And then beyond that, if you want to do better, if you want to do better in this class and the other class, and then help your family out and make some money and do all the things that are just even required of you, let alone exceed those requirements, you have to work real hard and have incredible discipline. And so the Buddha is taking that same sort of ethic here and taking it to an extreme. So that's what, it's written here, but you can think about this idea of asceticism as being extreme discipline. That's all that it is, right? Is it's taking what you already know, right, through all these examples, and taking it to its total extreme. So what would the opposite of asceticism be?
Wouldn't it just be like extreme indulgence, like doing everything you want to do and getting the most pleasure?
Yeah, excellent. And we talked about this before, right? I like that Yaya used the word pleasure. Extreme indulgence, extreme pleasure. There's another nice word. This I don't think will be on the exam, but it's a nice word. Hedonism. Maybe you've heard of hedonism. Is just living life for the sake of enjoyment, sensual pleasure. And people often criticize American society and saying it's full of hedonists, which is strangely true too, right? We're this highly disciplined, highly ascetic society, and at the same time, there's also this very strong hedonistic streak. There are many examples of indulgence as well, and I think if we look in our own lives, we can find examples of this too. Would you guys agree with me that both of these things somehow exist? Maybe not at exactly the same time, but we can sort of alternate between these cycles of extreme indulgence and extreme discipline. It's hard to indulge now. I think that's one thing that's been hard about COVID for many of us is there's not a lot of fun to be had. Like even if I wanted to indulge, what would I do? Where would I go? I can't go anywhere. I guess I probably could go somewhere, but it'd be sort of dangerous, so I don't do that. I could get drunk at my house and talk to someone on Zoom, or something like that. I guess that's a form of indulgence, but that's sort of a sad state of affairs, right? There's no bar, there's no restaurant, there's no sort of place to indulge anymore. And I think that's the piece that is missing. All we're left with is the asceticism. You guys feel that way too? That's not true for some states. Yeah, that's a good point. So I guess in the end, we're left with the choice, right? We're left with the choice. The responsible thing to do is to stay home and continue this very disciplined lifestyle with no space for release or joy or fun or pleasure. Or you could sort of break the rules or do something a little bit sketchy. And like we talked about, the hot girl summer is on the way, right? And so I think we're all sort of excited for the chance to blow off some steam a little bit. And so in this life story of the Buddha, really, if you kind of zoom out, you see these two sides, right? When he's a young man, indulgent, luxurious, sheltered, comfortable, very nice, very simple existence. When he becomes an older man, a slightly less young man, let's say, extreme discipline, avoidance of indulgence in any way to the point where he doesn't eat, right? And of course, I don't mean to cause any hardship for anybody, but this happens now, right? Some people live this way now. Some people binge and then purge, right? Some people eat in an extremely indulgent way and then live a very disciplined, have a very disciplined approach to food. And again, I don't blame these people. This is the society that we live in. We constantly alternate between these two things. And this is a story as old as time where people have been dealing with this sort of thing. You good, Mario? I appreciate the typing, even we get an extra M every now and then. And so what the Buddha ultimately lands on is neither of these. Maybe you saw this coming. The middle way, right? And so just so we're clear, what is the middle way? What is the middle way? A middle way between, right? Because if you think about it, middle has to be between two things. So what are the two extremes?
Extreme discipline or extreme indulgence, and the middle way is just finding the balance between both.
Exactly. Yes, exactly. And again, this is a task that we all face. This is a part of all of our lives. It's a part of maybe arguably everybody's life, is figuring out how to balance these two things. I think what the power of this story is it's bringing our attention to it. That there is, first of all, that there is a middle way between the two, and that we don't have to continually alternate between extreme indulgence and then extreme discipline to make up for our work, and then we get tired and we get burnt out and we want some more indulgence, and then we get behind on our deadlines whenever we have to work real hard. Is that a familiar cycle for you guys? I mean, that's kind of my life a lot of the time, or at least in simpler days it was. Now my life really is mostly just extreme asceticism. Yeah. And so what the Buddha promotes is a middle way. He doesn't tell you what that is necessarily. It's a pretty abstract concept when you think about it. But it's good, honestly, and that's why I'm spending so much time on it. I think it is useful to try to limit those extremes, bring it in a little bit, right? The extreme binge can be a little softer. The extreme discipline can be a little softer. Go easy on yourself, so then you don't have to binge as hard. And eventually, you might find some peace, right? Some calmness. So I think again, this is a bit of a gem, this idea of the middle way, which is why I'm focusing on it. So hopefully that's pretty clear. And then nirvana, right? And so this is the main Buddhist achievement, enlightenment itself. So the middle way is not enlightenment. That's something important to keep in mind. The middle way is an approach to life that the Buddha then argues does lead to enlightenment. So they're slightly different things. And then he spent the rest of his life wandering and teaching and leading the community of monks and nuns. I covered most of this in the pre-recorded lecture, so if you want to return to that, I encourage you to. Maybe we don't need to go too much into Nirvana. I do have another Keanu Reeves clip. Do I have one? Yeah, why don't we watch it? We can watch a little bit of it, because I've been talking a lot, and I'll continue to talk. Today will be more of a lecture class. And then next class, you guys will talk more. Okay, get rid of that. So this will be our last clip from this movie. I'm gonna pause the record. Yeah, so here's an older depiction of that same story. It's the Buddha under the tree. Here's the tree. He's got these kind of cool wavy lines behind him. He's touching the earth, very long arm, calling on the earth as his witness. Looks like his aura became visible. Yeah, have you guys heard of auras before? So that's sort of this like spiritual globe that comes around you, and there was something similar we saw in the movie too. So that has some precedence. This is very old. This is like 1,000 years old. It was painted on a cave in a place called Dunhuang. You can see the daughters are much more sort of plain looking here. They're just wearing nice robes and stuff, not nearly as attractive as the Hollywood daughters. And the demons are kind of goofy looking too. I like this image here. Can you tell what this is? He's a demon, of course. Can you tell what his weapon is?
Is this arrow or something?
It looks a lot like an arrow, but there's fire coming out of it. So this is a gun. This is one of the earliest guns ever drawn, because like I said, it's 1,000 years old. So the gun, what to say, gunpowder technology was invented and developed in East Asia, and then it kind of made its way across the Silk Road. Maybe you've heard that story. And so this is one of the earliest depictions of a gun in any context. So it's these demons attacking the Buddha. So it's all the same thing, right? And if you think about it, what is what is sort of the takeaway from this is that the Buddha has overcome these negative emotions, right? Which, of course, are embodied in this kind of misogynistic picture. But of course, this is a very deep emotion, and I'm sure we can all understand this. The attraction that a man has for a woman or a woman has for a man, it runs very deep. It's biological, right? The whole Darwin thing is we're basically all here to just reproduce and die. And this is what the Buddha is playing with, is that very deep biological attraction that we have to other people. He has overcome that, right? And this very deep sort of fight or flight response, which I'm sure gets your adrenaline going. I'm sure you guys, many of you know this experience. He's also overcome that, right? He's just totally chill, hanging out, calling on the earth, saying, you know what? I'm not even scared or attracted to or scared of you guys. I'm just here achieving enlightenment. Um, so how did I put this? The total eradication of negative emotions. That's what's being depicted here, right? These things that usually either attract or scare us just have no effect on him. And of course, the Hollywood people tried to reproduce this scene. So, any questions about that? About the life story of the Buddha? That's the basic gist of it, right? Is he's got this very comfortable, indulgent life, then a very austere, ascetic life, disciplined life, and then he finally reaches enlightenment. He's no longer being pushed and pulled by the illusions of this world. One final. Oh, go ahead, Isa.
I have a question. The Buddha was an actual person, right? Like actually existed.
Yeah. It's sort of like Jesus. Jesus was almost certainly a real person who actually existed. But when it comes to like saying very much about him, exactly, where he was at this year, this time, that sort of thing, it's hard to do. And just like the Buddha, we have a vague sense of when he lived. It's about 2,500 years ago. So, 500 BC. And other than that, we know very little for sure. Northern India, traveled around a lot. Um, there are many Buddhas. Yes, there are many Buddhas. And in fact, we'll get to that in a moment. So that's actually a good point to cover right now. If we ever say the Buddha, that's talking about this guy. When he was a prince, his name was Prince Siddhartha. I think I've said that in class, but maybe you guys weren't sure of what I meant when I said that. So he was a prince, Prince Siddhartha. He achieved enlightenment. When he achieved enlightenment, people called him the Buddha. But I think to answer Isa's question more directly, a lot of this is kind of legendary, right? It's a ridiculous story if you think about it. Who would be so surprised by birth, old age, and sickness, right? Sorry, old age, sickness, and death. Sometimes people add birth to that formulation too. It's unrealistic. That doesn't mean he didn't exist. It just means people sort of elaborate legends and myths and all that sort of stuff onto his life. And so it's hard to separate sort of truth from fact. But that being said, I don't think we need to. I think the more interesting way to think about it is what we've been doing, is how does this sort of speak to our lives, right? What can we learn from this story? And as I've already mentioned, I think there's a lot actually we can take away from it. This middle way concept. And then finally, here are the Buddha's final words. If you ever read a story and one of the main characters is dying and they give their sort of final testament, that's important. So let's think about this. Decay is inherent in all things. You guys agree? What is this talking about? Decay is inherent in all things. Can anyone make sense of that? Life is impermanent. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And again, when did the Buddha realize this? Old age, sickness, death, right? Life isn't permanent. We get old. Our bodies are not permanent, even though we often treat them as if they are. We wake up in the morning. It's like, okay, I look good today. I look like I normally look. But of course, if you compare yourself to 10 years ago, you don't look like you looked 10 years ago. We're constantly changing. We're constantly morphing, shifting, transforming. Just like Mario said here, life is not permanent. It is impermanent, is another word to use this. So why is impermanence so important in Buddhism? Well, we can sort of put that together now, right? If our body is impermanent, but we don't see it as being impermanent, what happens when we inevitably get old, get sick, and die? So I'll write this out. Our body is impermanent. That's a fact. But we don't see it as impermanent. What happens with old age, sickness, and death? when we inevitably encounter them, just like the Buddha did. Is this question unclear? Maybe it's a hard question. But again, it's sort of the point of this life story. When we encounter old age, when we find a gray hair for the first time, when our body starts breaking down and we're getting injured, LeBron got injured, right? He's unbreakable, I thought. I thought he was going to be in the NBA forever, but inevitably he must retire, right? It's got to happen. And it's extra special for me because he's about the same age as me. I think he's like a week older than I am or something, right? So when LeBron finally retires, it's like, oh no, that means I'm old now, right? And I will be surprised. That's what happens. If our body's impermanent, again, it's a fact that it's going to break down and fall apart, but we don't see it that way. We will be surprised when it falls apart, when we get old, when we get sick, when we get injured, and again, when we die. It's surprising. It's surprising when it happens to us. It's surprising when it happens to other people. It makes us sad. It tears us apart, right? And what the Buddha is reminding us is this is a fact, right? We've already said it. We got to come to terms with it, and yet it is really hard to do. There are not very many topics where we know that our approach is wrong, and yet there's nothing we can do about it. Even though I know that my loved ones will die one day, I will still be surprised and hurt when they finally leave. And it will happen. The only other choice is that I go first, right? Those are the two choices. Somebody's got to go eventually, though. And yet, it's very difficult to look at the world this way. So that's the first part. Decay is inherent in all things. Again, this is a fact. In religious studies class, we don't talk about facts that much, but this is a fact. Decay is inherent in all things. I think it's the second law of thermodynamics that states of order move towards states of disorder. The law of entropy. Isn't that what that's called? Engineers? Where are you at? And so then the Buddha says, this one's a little harder. Be sure to strive with clarity of mind. How do you strive with clarity of mind? What do you think he's talking about there? Well, maybe we can come back to this. One thing I want to be clear. Well, let's look at this scene. So here's an early depiction of the death of the Buddha. If you ever see him lying down, that means he's dying. And here are a bunch of people gathered around him. What do you think they're doing? How do you think they feel about the death of the Buddha? If they're the Buddha's students, if they're early Buddhists, how do you think Buddhists feel about death? How should Buddhists feel about death? Samara says they're trying to be okay with it. The one in the middle looks like he's going crazy. So that's a good observation, Harrison. Panicky, right? This guy's got his hands in the air too. It's a little hard to tell. I think this guy in the middle is the most expressive, right? And I picked this picture because it's a little ambiguous and we can sort of guess. I want to say thank you to Mario for saying this, right? There's an expectation because again, what are the Buddha's? Yeah, exactly. There's an expectation to understand this impermanence thing, right? He tells everybody to understand impermanence, and yet even the like ideal practitioners, even they can't do it. So this is key. This is really key. And like Mario said, is trying, right? They will be sad, and you will be sad, and I will be sad, and that is okay. It's okay to be sad, right? I think there's sort of this weird thing we do in our own society where we don't let ourselves be sad when people die, when people get sick, when people get old. We just sort of pretend and pretend and pretend. It's almost like we just stay in the castle, like when the Buddha was in the castle when he was young. It's just like we don't even want to encounter it at all. But you got to encounter it. You got to look it in the eye, right? Look death in the eye. Look sickness in the eye, because if you don't, then you're just living in a fantasy, right? You're not even leaving the castle. And so these people are, this guy in particular, he's looking right at him. Buddha's dying and he is cracking up inside. He's tearing his hair out, he's crying, he's panicking, just like you guys are saying. But at the same time, as he's dying, the Buddha's like, don't worry, everything is impermanent. Learn from this moment because he's using his own body to teach this lesson, right? Why did the Buddha have to die? Because that's his whole teaching, is that everything dies, right? Everything comes to an end. Okay, maybe that's enough of that. So this clarity of mind thing is sort of an open question. We can answer that in a moment. Questions about the Buddha's life? How does that all sound? I know this is we're kind of reaching pretty far back into the material, but it's important, right? I think these are key Buddhist ideas. These are sort of the early life of the Buddha, Buddhist story. It teaches some of the core Buddhist messages, and they're not the only ones, but these are key ideas. So what do we got? We got the middle way, and then we've got this idea of impermanence that we've been discussing, and then this clarity of mind is really talking about I thought I had a slide for karma. Oh, I think I deleted it. Well, it's really talking about karma. Now, you guys have probably heard of karma before, right? What is karma all about?
It's like cause and effect. So like what you do might come back to you if it's like not something good.
Mm-hmm. You do something bad will happen to you. Yeah, that's exactly what Yaya said too. So what goes around comes around. I'm sure a lot of you have kind of encountered this before. I think if we had had a full class on Thursday last week, we could have gone into more detail. In Buddhism, it takes on a new meaning because in our world, people usually use it to think like, okay, if I do bad stuff in this life, I will be punished in this life. Karma will come back and get me, something like that. But as you can tell from this language of being punished, it sort of has this sense like there's some cosmic universe out there that takes my bad action and gives me some sort of punishment. But it's important to keep in mind that for Buddhism, karma is over many lives, right? Why does having many lives matter? Because again, reincarnation, typing too many letters. Reincarnation. Well, how does that change the idea of karma? Because I hate to say it, as you're thinking about this, I hate to say it. If you limit karma to one life, it doesn't really work. It's not very obvious karma only applies to one life. Yeah, if you limit karma to one life, there are so many examples where people are horrible and they don't get punished. Right? Can you think of anyone who's like lied to the American people and caused all sorts of strife and difficulty and is just sort of enjoying himself in Florida right now? Who could I be talking about? No, even he had his karma moment, right, when he got COVID. But yeah, exactly. You can think of many people who have done horrible things and who don't get punished, who get away with it, right? Who live long, healthy lives full of pleasure and happiness. What would the Buddhists say to that person? There's always the next life. There's always the next life, right? And so if you don't have multiple lives, karma doesn't work. I hate to say it. We want to live in a just universe, but as long as we've got the YOLO mentality, which of course means you only live once, right? As long as you think of life as only living once, karma doesn't make any sense. It only makes sense if we have multiple lives, right? Because if I'm a good human, I can maybe go up and become a god. I went into details about these last Thursday, so go back to that video if you want more of the details. But if I'm a bad human, what happens to me? Hell, baby, right? You might have thought the Catholics had a monopoly on hell, but the Buddhists have some pretty intense hell. So again, I talked about this before. Good rebirth, bad rebirth, and so I think the more interesting thing is when bad things happen to us, how can we think about it, right? For Buddhists, there's a sense that, okay, something bad's happening to me, but I'm kind of getting over this difficult thing from a previous life, right? And so all the lives sort of bleed into each other and it becomes this larger karmic ethical continuum.
Oh,
What's up?
So when I was in global history, and my professor made us do like looking at history through a feminist lens. So I don't know if this is actually true, but I do remember I was taught it. In Buddhism, they believe that if you're reincarnated as a woman, it's a sign of karma that you did something in a bad life, and that one of the signs that you're getting closer to nirvana is being reincarnated as a man.
So I was just thinking, what are the sort of gender implications of karma? You're absolutely right. It is kind of a misogynistic system, and like we talked about before, these misogynistic aspects of, let's just say, traditional society enter into the religion, and Buddhism is no exception. So the way Isa said it was totally accurate. The only difference, and I think this is another important difference, is your sense of self is not defined by your gender. Okay? So I'm a man in this life, but with this idea of multiple lives, have I ever not been a man? Is that possible? Yes, it's not only possible, it is a fact. Because one thing I should make clear is there's infinite time, infinite lives, right? So with infinite lives in both directions, right? It's not like you get to hell and you just stay there. You're constantly bouncing around. We have all been to hell. We have all been to heaven. We have all been ghosts. We've all been animals. We've all been men. We've all been women. It's not a question if, right? It's just when, right? When I was a man, when I was a woman. And it opens up all kinds of ethical things, right? You can see the horrible people in jail, and they're so bad because they're in jail. They murdered someone. They should stay in jail for the rest of their lives. And of course, the victims of those people, the families of the victims, my heart goes out to them. I don't mean to sort of downplay the atrocity there, but at the same time, with infinite lives, have I ever murdered someone according to this system? Yes. We've done it. We've done it all, guys. We've done it all. And so it opens up a lot more room for interpersonal connection, I would say. And so when we get rid of rebirth, when we just sort of throw it away, but we take karma, we can stay our bounded self. I'm just me, and you're just you. I'm a man, and maybe you're a woman, or maybe you're also a man, whatever. That person's in jail because they're bad, but I'm good because I never did the bad thing that they did. But when we open this up, we can see ourselves and everybody else, right? In fact, we have to. There's, and not just other people, other animals too, right? So a lot of Buddhist vegetarians come out of this. So it's tricky. On the one hand, these sort of systems promote misogyny, also the caste system, right? You do good things, you're born into a better caste. Remember, we talked about animals as being a low caste, and then the gods being the high caste. There's that same sort of rhetoric happening here. You do good things, you'll be high caste. You do bad things, you'll be low caste. So gender, power, all that stuff comes into play here. So excellent question, though. Thank you for bringing that up. There are 6 realms. Again, you can look at the video for more details on this. Since we only have 10 minutes left and you have an assignment coming up, what's the most important thing to do in the last 10 minutes? Why don't let's do the Four Noble Truths because that ties in the most with what we've been doing now. And we can do the greater vehicle. Harrison brought up that there are many Buddhas. We'll just save that for next time. But let's cover the Four Noble Truths for the last 10 minutes because these are pretty complicated. They're important. And it's the Buddha's first major teaching. And so this is all, actually this entire class has basically just been going over stuff from the lecture I gave on Thursday, but that's fine because we're interacting and answering questions and that sort of stuff. So I think that's good. So the Four Noble Truths. Here's the Buddha. He achieves enlightenment. His first students were his friends, right? So if we go back to this time of his life, he had some companions who were also ascetics, right? Who were also living this very disciplined life. So you can imagine, we're all out in the woods meditating together. We're not eating real food. We're just barely staying alive. And then one day, the Buddha's like, you know what? I'm gonna eat some food, and I'm gonna leave you guys alone. So see you later. And so all the other ascetics are like, oh, look at this weak let's look at this weak Prince Siddhartha going back to indulgence and so forth. He's so weak he can't even master his body or whatever. Eventually, the Buddha comes back, and they're like, "Oh, he's coming back." But wait, he's like golden and beaming light and has a halo behind his head. Maybe we should listen to what he has to say. So here are the ascetics kind of gathering around him and listening to his first teaching, which is this: the Four Noble Truths. Very simply put, the first one we basically already covered, the truth of suffering, right? It's the truth that our bodies fall apart. It's old age, sickness, and death. Very simply put, it is a fact, right? The Buddha starts with this fact. The whole life story of the Buddha is built around this fact, right? This is the first noble truth. And if he leaves us hanging here, he's kind of a jerk because he's just like, I'm going to remind you that you're going to die one day. And then he doesn't really follow up on it. So that would be mean. That's sort of what I did earlier. But again, we're finally getting to what you can do about it. So again, this is the big realization, is that we are going to die one day, and there's an immense amount of suffering built around that and other related things. Why do we suffer, though? Do we have to suffer? The Buddha says, no, we don't have to suffer. So why do we suffer? Here's what he says, and it's a quote from him. It is this thirst or craving, tanha, thirst or craving, which gives rise to rebirth, which seeks fresh pleasure, now here, now there, in the form of thirst for sensual pleasure, thirst for existence, thirst for non-existence. Okay, so that sounds like a lot of talk for probably a very familiar idea. What is he saying here? Why do we suffer? I think Mario already brought up the word. Did he say craving? I think he might have said craving earlier, or was it thirst? I forget which one he used. People are never satisfied with what they have. Yeah. So if we think about thirst for existence, what does that mean? Is I want more. I want things to exist. I want to have things. So I could have an object. I want the new whatever PS5 or whatever it is. I want a nice friend to come hang out with me, or some other form of pleasure that might come from that, right? So you want something to exist. There are other times where you want things to not exist. Can you think of an example of something you don't want to exist? What are some things you don't want to exist? COVID, yeah, exactly. Death, yeah. So we don't want these things to happen. We don't want them, and yet they do happen anyway. So we talked about accepting death, accepting sickness, that sort of thing. That's kind of what this is getting at, right? Is by not accepting these things, we're setting ourselves up to suffer, right? We're setting ourselves up to have problems. Negative energy. Yeah. Can we control other people's vibes? We can't, right? People are going to throw whatever vibes they're going to throw. And so then this is compared, and this is an important point. Does it mean we should have no desires? Are the Buddhists saying that we should eliminate all, I'm going to put in caps, all desires? It's kind of a leading question, but maybe it is counterintuitive because many people say, okay, the Buddha taught that suffering comes from desire, therefore we should not have any desire. But is that what the Buddha taught? Should we eliminate all desires?
No, we should find a balance.
We should find a balance. Didn't somebody already try that? Didn't somebody already try eliminating all desires? How did that work out for him? It wasn't great, right? He had a bad time. And we should find a balance. What is that balance called? It is called the middle way. Aha, so we're back where we started. And so what is the balance? Is finding just what's the difference between these negative desires that cause us problems and a wholesome desire? Can you think of wholesome desires? What's a good kind of desire? Here's what Kyon says. Wrong desires restrict and fetter. Right desires enhance and liberate. I thought that was really nice. What's an example of a wholesome desire? Do you guys have any wholesome desires?
I guess wanting to be happy is a pretty harmless desire.
Wanting to be happy?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say it's pretty harmless. What I would add a little note to that though. We talked about happiness as being kind of a blurry term. Remember, we talked about duty, success, pleasure, and how those lead to happiness. And so happiness is kind of big and frankly a little scary because a lot of like advertisements say we'll give you happiness, but what they really mean is just sensual pleasure, right? So I agree with you. To want happiness, to have this sense of like fulfillment, to be at peace, to be, just like the holy person that the Buddha saw, right? Have this sense of satisfaction with your life. Those are all wonderful things. But when we kind of collapse it with this just like raw pleasure, like just give me some sugar and hook it up to my veins so I can just experience the high of sugar all the time, that's when we start to get into trouble. And I hate to say it, there's an entire industry that tries to collapse these things into each other. It's called the advertising industry, right? So it's an uphill battle. And this is why we're so confused about what a wholesome desire looks like, is we barely even have the language to talk about it. How about the desire to want to do well in this class? Is that a wholesome desire? Of course it is. Yes, absolutely. How about the desire to help other people? Is that wholesome? Absolutely. The desire to enjoy the sunshine on a nice afternoon, to go for a nice walk, especially, if you're listening to a podcast while you're doing it, even more wholesome, right? So our lives are filled with wholesome desires. So please don't get this wrong. The Buddhists are not saying all desires are bad. In fact, the Buddha tried that. But what would happen if you really think about it? What would happen if you lead a life with no desire? Could you survive? You could not, right? Why not? You'd end up like him, right? You'd starve to death. You have to desire in order to eat. Eating requires desire because it'll make you unhappy, ultimately in sickness and death. Yeah, you have to desire to get up out of bed in the morning, right? In fact, in some ways, even though people think of depression as a lack of happiness, it's also kind of a lack of these wholesome desires, right? We run out of this fuel that keeps us going in life, which is a type of desire. So when we come back to the Buddha's final words, clarity of mind, this is part of it. It's not the whole thing, but this is a big part of it, is what desires are wholesome. Maybe we'll use which desires are wholesome lead to happiness, let's just say, and which desires are unwholesome or negative lead to suffering. That's the big question. And I only does a DM. When you guys DM me, I can only DM you. But you can DM if you want. I just gotta switch it back. So which desires are wholesome lead to happiness, and which desires are unwholesome lead to suffering? This is the clarity we need, right? This is the teaching of karma. This is how to live a wise and healthy life, is by paying attention to the effects of your action. How do your actions affect yourself and other people around you? Okay, we are out of time. Any last thoughts or questions on this? And just to cap it off, the fourth noble truth is the path, right? So we can start with the four noble truths next time. We'll have a lot to talk about to make sure you can do your assignments, but we'll get through it. If there are no last thoughts or questions, let's call it a day, shall we?